Hello everybody, welcome back to the WTF1 podcast. My name is Matthew Gallagher and we are talking about the Styrian Grand Prix. Now, it wouldn't be a podcast if it was just myself. It'd be pretty boring, actually. In fact, we have got WTF1 founder and sexiest man in Northampton, Tom Bellingham.
That's an official title as well.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Course, yeah.
How are you, Tommy?
I'm good. It was a decent race. Not as good as last time, but still a very enjoyable one, I thought.
Hashtag Austrian Grand Prix.
Oh, that annoys the hell out of me.
Styrian Grand Prix. Hashtag Australian. Yeah.
As someone that's essentially, well, my job is social media, what a ridiculous thing to do. I cannot believe... I'm probably like too triggered by this than I should be, but it's a separate race. Why would you put the same hashtag? It just made it...
It made no sense, yeah.
It made no sense. And then even worse, they actually started using Styrian GP because loads of people started using Styrian GP to the point where it actually was trending. And then F1 changed, it's almost like they changed their mind, used it for a bit, and then went back to it. It was very, very bizarre.
Yeah, it was an easy call to make, but apparently, maybe it was because I mentioned that the slight concern that some people wouldn't really associate this race as the Styrian Grand Prix because it's the same track, and isn't it just easier to call it the Austrian Grand Prix again? But then it's just the confusion that made it even worse, wasn't it? So...
Yeah, very odd. And then people, well, I doubt anyone would, but just people maybe thinking that, oh, they're just tweeting about an old race or what, I don't know. Very just so bizarre. I hope they don't do it for Silverstone.
Well, you'd have to be living under a rock, wouldn't you, if you thought they were talking about last week's Grand Prix. But either way, 3-word race reviews. We dive into some of those. A Galway Baywatch says Lando, Scenario 7. Francesco _Dorazzi04, Charlotte Crash. Oh, dear. Well, okay, we're including that one. Jack 45 Fordham, Austrian was better. And Paolo _Barsi, midfield was awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They're I think it's quite harsh, and I think even I said in Internet's Best Reactions that it wasn't it was quite a boring race for a lot of it, but there were intriguing battles, and I guess our expectations were so much higher after last weekend's Austrian Grand Prix that we could never really be truly satisfied with just a bone dry race.
Yeah, agreed. Thank goodness for the end, eh?
Indeed. Right, let's get into my 3-word race review. Thank you, Lando. Let's talk about... we always talk about Lando Norris, but it's not because we're biased. It's the fact that he just loves putting on an absolute show. And the last few laps were nothing short of sensational again. What is it about Lando Norris and the last few laps of the Red Bull Ring? We'll call it the Red Bull Ring because that's the circuit. That didn't change. The name of it didn't change.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2 weeks on the trot, Lando putting himself in the absolute limelight once again. And because for most of it, he looked like he was nowhere.
Yeah, I thought the very same. Massive mistake in qualifying. It was a little worried that he'd be free practice, overtaking under yellows. Very rookie error, and like people said, it's kind of the first thing you learn in karting is not to overtake under yellows. So thought it was going to be a bit of a 0 to 0 weekend, and didn't seem to be in it. Obviously, Carlos was very unlucky, but pulling that out the bag again, unbelievable. And he's third in the title by quite a distance. I cannot believe that. Imagine if we'd have said after 2 races when we were here saying about, can Verstappen challenge the Mercedes? It might favour him. And here we are with Lando clear third in the championship. Man.
He's got over half the points he had for the entirety of last season already, which is a ridiculous stat, isn't it?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, Lando has performed extremely well. The McLaren definitely has taken a step forward, but usually you'd expect Carlos Sainz to at least have had one of those standout results if it was a McLaren in those first 2 weekends, but it didn't work out well for him this weekend just gone. He had a slow pit stop, didn't he? Which really kind of pushed him back because that midfield pack was so tight that one small error, which unfortunately came for Carlos in the pit stops, put him pretty much from the front of the queue to the back.
Yeah, ironically, Carlos probably, if you're looking at similar levels of how well their race went from a pure driver point of view. He probably did just as good as Lando, if not a little bit better, but didn't get any of the limelight because, unfortunately, the pit stop absolutely ruined his race. He was obviously he qualified a brilliant third. Looked like he might even get Verstappen at the start, but I think fourth or fifth was on the cards for him. And then because of the dodgy pit stop, it dropped him behind, was it Ricciardo and Stroll?
It did.
And then
Perez
it just
as well, wasn't it?
And then he just ruined his tyres trying to get past him because overtaking was very difficult in that race. And ruined his tyres. And then it got to the point where he had to let Lando go because his tyres were shot.
What wasn't it the fact that he was having problems charging his battery as well? Or am I mistaken? I felt like that was.
I didn't actually hear that one.
Because
the one
I was on the pit lane channel.
Oh, yes.
Nobody knew. And I think that was one of the things that we may have heard on there. It's in my brain. I might be completely wrong, but it's in my brain, so I think I'm right.
Interesting.
That he was having some energy recharge issues, and therefore that's one of the reasons why he was quite slow.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
He's smashed in the lap record by nearly 2 seconds at the end. Which was pretty amazing. And McLaren back-to-back fastest laps is pretty mad.
What is 2020?
I know.
Crazy. Right, we've got a question at Beth1. I love that. I think it's one of the. She's one of the female content creators, isn't she?
Yeah, she is.
But yeah, love that Beth1. That's brilliant. Anyway, how effective will McLaren's good relationship between team and drivers? How effective will McLaren's good relationship between team and drivers, in brackets, signs let Norris through on track, no questions asked, be when it comes to scoring top points? I think it's obviously very helpful that they get on really well. I don't think they'll be the same when it comes to further up the field. And we've seen it many times in the past where relationships very much disintegrate when they're towards the front of the field. It's not so bad when someone has to let another person through for 8th place, although I say that, Ocon didn't let Ricciardo through. But I feel like the whole thing changes when it's fighting for victories and fighting for podiums. Right now, McLaren are in a good stage where they're not doing that just yet, but they're getting there. So that's what I think. What do you think, Tommy?
They played a blinder, didn't they? Especially, like you say, Renault. It could have. It's hard to know if that cost them big time. Obviously, Ocon went out the race anyway.
Yeah.
But if you think, obviously, it doesn't necessarily work like this. But if you think Ricciardo finished 8th and was 0.2 seconds behind 6th, spending 3 laps behind your teammate, it shows that every 10th of a second counts in F1, even in the race. And we say it in pit stops and stuff. So the fact that as soon as Ricciardo got behind, and he was on a different tyre as well,
it made no sense.
Was faster. And I remember thinking at the time, like, this is really bad from Renault. Like, they need to be letting him go. And yeah, McLaren played the right game. But I totally agree with what you're saying, that it is very easy to do that when you're in the midfield or the top end of the midfield. Look at even Mercedes when it was Rosberg and Hamilton in 2013 when they weren't going for a world title. It was a lot easier than it was when they're going for a world title. So I think I'm just more surprised that Renault didn't do it than the fact that McLaren did.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with that because it just made no sense. If they were on the same tyre, I can understand why they were fighting and why they allowed them to battle. But Ricciardo was on the more durable mediums, was going further into his stint. Esteban was trying to argue the fact that he had more pace in the car, but wasn't showing it. And it just made not much sense at all, really. So very strange. I know Esteban Ocon, he doesn't want to just let up and let Ricciardo through because at the end of the day, Ricciardo's the one that's leaving Renault. Ocon wants to be... Well, I'm going to say number 1, but you've got Alonso coming in 2021.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he wants to stake his claim in Formula 1. So he's not just going to let him through unless Renault tell him. So that's the job of Renault to say, look, Esteban, just let him through. He's on a different tyre strategy. If he jumps you later on, we'll swap the cars back. Right? That's as simple as that. It's racing in a team 101.
I cannot believe they didn't tell him. Did they not tell him? I certainly didn't hear any team
Well, no,
radio.
they came over the team radio and was very sort of shyly saying, "Oh, Esteban, have you got any more pace in the car?"
So they did a Ferrari, was it, with Kimi that year where they were where Kimi was going,
Kimi's like, just
tell me what you want me to do.
Yeah, and Esteban was just saying, because again, I don't know how much of this was in the actual main feed, but Esteban was saying, "Oh, I have got more pace in the car," when clearly he didn't. He was just trying to sort of not make the call happen. But yeah, it was very odd. Anyway, moving on. Back to Lando, because that was my 3-word race review. Obviously, the Stroll versus Ricciardo battle. Stroll just sent it, which I like. He absolutely went for it into turn 3. We've seen a few lunges there over the last couple of weeks. And he went for it. Obviously, he went off. Ricciardo went off. Lando sees this happening and thinks, hello, thank you very much. Let's do this. Curtis2201 says, how did Stroll get away without a penalty? I imagine that's questioning the move on Ricciardo, is it?
I believe so, yeah.
That's just a racing incident. There was no contact. Like, that's just a send. I don't understand how that would be a penalty, personally.
We had a lot of comments asking why it's not a penalty, and I guess Danny Rick's argument is, well, I lost a place to Lando, and did Stroll stay ahead of him?
Yes. Stroll was ahead of him, yeah.
It stayed ahead of him.
That's true, actually. I didn't think about that.
And went off the track. It's very marginal. It's very marginal. I've spoken a few times about my opinion on this, where I kind of like the old school IndyCar approach, where they let them race. And yeah, it was marginal.
There's a video that comes to mind. It was Massa and who was it? It was a Sauber.
Yeah, it was Robert Kubica and
it was
Fuji.
Kubica, and they were just corner cutting.
Yeah,
they were just taking the most amount of liberties I've ever seen. But that was just raw, unadulterated racing, wasn't it? And you watch that back and you go, I actually think I prefer that.
Oh, 100%. And that's always my argument with these things is if you start punishing someone trying to make a legitimate overtake, let's be honest, he didn't dive bomb him from about 5 seconds behind and plow into the side of him. He had a run on him. He went for the move. He overcooked it. Just about made the corner. I think he was probably all 4 wheels off. But that's the kind of racing that I personally like to see in Formula One, and we all want to see overtaking and battles. So for me, we can't complain about a race where there's no overtaking at all.
Yeah.
And then complain that everyone should get a penalty if you don't make a move stick.
I think the main point there is, though, that Stroll went for the move, didn't make it happen, as in he didn't make it stick, went off the track, so did Ricciardo. I guess, when I'm looking at it now, I'm thinking that probably does deserve a penalty because of the fact that he gained an advantage from running off the track and forcing Ricciardo off the track as well. So
maybe Ricciardo,
I don't know, I'd have to watch it back.
But maybe Ricciardo going off track as well sort of helped Stroll a little bit there. I'd have to watch it back. I don't think Ricciardo had much of a choice to go off, I guess, without completely slamming on the brakes and losing about 2 seconds. It's marginal.
It wasn't even investigated, was it? I don't think it was even investigated.
No, it wasn't. It's funny that, and then obviously we won't go into this too much, but that move then obviously annoyed Renault quite a bit, that they then protested.
Unleashed the protests.
Yes.
We will be releasing a video about that in the future. So, in the near future, because I'm sure we'll get an answer to why, but we're releasing a video around why don't midfield teams copy top teams all the time? And this will be part of that. So keep an eye out for that on the WTF1 YouTube channel. Right, Tommy, your 3-word race review.
Max needs Mercedes.
Oh, here we go.
I knew you'd say that.
Oh, here comes the Verstappen fanboy. Oh, if he had a Mercedes, he would have beaten Hamilton by 7 laps. Right, go on.
The funniest thing is, it's not even about that. The start of the year, I mean, we did a podcast, didn't we, where it said that this could be Verstappen's year. The calendar maybe helps Red Bull a little bit. And I absolutely loved watching Verstappen send it round the outside of Bottas when he had absolutely no right to, really. He was on not in a position to kind of repass. I cannot believe he repassed him.
It's one of the best moves I've seen in recent years, genuinely.
Yeah, it was incredible, because you think he was a sitting duck, really.
With damage.
Bottas had DRS. And he still just kind of schooled Bottas on the brakes and just went around the outside of him. It was incredible. But it's a worry for me. And again, I know you mentioned this. This is not me saying give Verstappen a Mercedes and he'd win. Personally, I don't think that would happen. I think it would be obviously a lot closer than it is with Bottas. But it's an answer we will never know unless Mercedes put Verstappen in that car, which they are not going to do, let's be honest. Worry,
that would be the most mouth-watering prospect.
It would be amazing, wouldn't it? But my concern is that I guess it's more about Mercedes looking like they're almost maybe not quite that level, but not far off 2014, 2016 Mercedes again, where it's going to be a 1-2 in the bag every race.
Yeah.
And this year, Verstappen, because Ferrari aren't in the mix, I can almost see Verstappen just being in that no man's land every single race where he's so far ahead of his teammate, but he doesn't have the Ferraris to race. So he could just end up just third every single race by not having nothing to fight for. And what we want to see, everyone wants to see, regardless whether you like it or not, you want to see Max Verstappen going wheel to wheel with F1 cars because it's
right,
super
Crofty.
exciting. But you know what I mean? It would be such a shame. And I couldn't help but when he did that move think, oh, imagine if they were closer.
No, I bet you made that noise. But yeah, no, I completely agree. It is it could be a very boring season for Max, where he occasionally outperforms the car and gets in front of Bottas, like we saw this weekend just gone. But yeah, I agree that Mercedes does look ridiculously strong. Although Toto Wolff came out and said that he doesn't think that he's seen the full hand of Red Bull and all this good
he
stuff.
He always says that, doesn't he?
Yeah, he always says that to try and make it not seem like Mercedes are absolutely dominating and they need to change something.
Didn't he say one year that even Williams could win the world title or something before? I think it was like 2018 or something. And it was like, sorry, no.
Yeah. What are you on, Toto? What are you on? There's a question from Wizradar. Do you think it's going to be Mercedes and Max on the podium all season if nothing crazy happens? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. If qualifying goes to plan, Max can't somehow get himself on pole or P2, yeah, I think it will be pretty straightforward for Mercedes this season. And, Bottas is still leading the championship. He's going to have to bring his A game for us to have any sort of entertainment throughout the next however many races we're going to have.
Exactly, because Lewis was just on another level, wasn't he, all weekend? So
yeah, so Bottas has to capitalise every single time Hamilton isn't 100%. Even if he's 99, Bottas needs to get pole. It's qualifying. It's all down to qualifying in Formula One these days. Until the aero wash is reduced and in 2022 and we get new regulations. Until then, I'd say 75% of the race is won from qualifying these days.
Yeah, show us that 99 awareness, Bottas, please.
So where was Albon? Max Verstappen's teammate. Very disappointing. Almost a Pierre Gasly kind of performance, I said in IBR, rather than Albon. Considering he could have easily won the first race of the season. And throughout free practice and qualifying, he was complaining all the time on the team radio. From understeer, snaps of oversteer, he went off a few times. And clearly, whatever problems he had, he couldn't get on top of. And it's not as though the first weekend he was on the pace, rapid, blah, blah, blah. Like, he wasn't as far off, although Max obviously retired quite early. He wasn't exactly setting blistering pace on the first weekend either. He just lucked into a really good tyre strategy. So, yeah, he was very disappointing. Jamie Smith 0811 says, was Albon disappointing or should fourth place at every race be a realistic aim for him this year? Fourth place should be a realistic aim, but not 40 seconds off your teammate until he pits to go for fastest lap.
It is mad, isn't it? I saw actually, they say never read the comments, but I was having a little gander of the comments in IBR, and there was one that's saying something like, you're being too harsh on Albon because he finished fourth and that's the best he can do. But it's not the fact that he finished fourth, it's the fact that he was like 40 seconds behind his teammate. When Verstappen had damage as well, you just think he could have lapped him in that race if he'd have had better pace. So it's crazy that Albon can't afford to do that, because when McLaren, Racing Point, Renault, Ferrari are in the mix, he's not going to get fourth. So he can't be 40 seconds behind his teammate.
He nearly didn't finish fourth. Perez was very much making a move on him, and
Perez started 17th.
Yeah, had Perez not clipped his front wing, he would have probably had him the next lap.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I was saying in commentary, I'm sure we'll talk about that in a second. But, I was saying during the pit lane channel that it would be a ridiculously embarrassing weekend for Albon if he was beaten by Perez. and he had to fight tooth and nail to try and keep Perez behind. And as Perez was catching and fastest lap, Albon did bring his pace up, but it still wasn't enough to bridge the gap to Perez. And I think Albon was very lucky as well with the back markers that he caught on particular laps, because then he got DRS, which then kind of halted Perez's charge for a couple of laps. And yeah, I think this actually comes into the next question from Capostrophe. Not catastrophe, capostrophe. Do you think Max, when he has the car to consistently challenge Mercedes at every track, will need a more competitive teammate in order to become a world champion? And that's a good question. That's a really good question, because not only is it all down to Max's performance, because if Red Bull does give Max a race-winning car, but then I don't think they'll ever produce something that will dominate Mercedes. He needs that teammate. The likes of maybe Mark Webber was to Sebastian Vettel, having a few race wins here and there, but most importantly, taking points off other people. So you can't rely usually on just one person in a team to win a championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Albon's a great driver. I definitely don't think we're at that territory where we need to start talking about replacing him, but he really does need to pick up his pace, because, like you say, it almost shows how good Danny Rick was, and the fact that Verstappen's no doubt an amazing driver, but Danny Rick, and while Verstappen was on top of Danny Rick in the end, he didn't.
They were close.
Danny Rick was they were close, and Danny Rick did get that pole and could pick up really good results for Red Bull and not be that far. We've said before that when Max does go for a title, if Red Bull produce that car, they don't need. They need someone that's not going to beat Max, because they don't want to take points off Max, but they don't want someone that's 40 seconds in a race behind him every race. Yeah, that's not going to be enough. They need they need a
Ricciardo
or a Bottas
or a Bottas. Yeah, exactly. And I think Bottas is similar to the Ricciardo. When it was Verstappen and Ricciardo. So yeah, I think he definitely needs to improve his game, because silly season is continuing and Albon doesn't have a long-term contract at Red Bull, so you never know what Red Bull are going to do you? So if he has a consistent run of poor performances, we could start talking about him in the same scenario as what Gasly was in.
Yeah.
So we don't know, and Red Bull are savage, and they don't take prisoners, do they?
Regardless of what, because Horner said there's absolutely no way Sebastian Vettel is going to be driving or whatever, and a lot of people replied saying, they said that about Horner, said that there's no way they're replacing Gasly, and they did. And a lot of it because Red Bull is a very unique team, and in terms of their structure, it's very strange, but it's not Horner's decision.
Exactly. So, and if Vettel comes knocking saying, I'll be number 2 to Max, no worries, I'll come along. And Albon's just finished a lap down from Verstappen. You never know. It can change very quickly in Formula One, and you can't trust Christian Horner, that's for sure.
Nope.
Right, let's move on to the next team, which would usually be the third fastest team, but they're not. Ferrari. Well, I mean, let's talk very briefly about the crash. Yes. I don't think there's much debate we need to really go into with this one, because it's very much 100% Charles Leclerc's fault.
Yep.
It was very strange to see that, and I think it's maybe part of what Charles Leclerc still has to learn within his racecraft is when he doesn't have the fastest car, when he's had a poor qualifying, when he's got a penalty for something that's quite annoying, and he was saying in interviews beforehand, I'm going to make up as many places as I can at the start, which is fair enough. Oh, wow. You try and make as many places, but that was desperation. He saw a tiny gap, there was a gap, but that was always going to close because it's on the apex of a corner. Vettel's already going 3 wide with 2 other people on his left. It was obviously, it's the benefit of hindsight and things, but I think it's a stone wall. Come on, Charles, you didn't need to go for that.
100%. I cannot. I'm trying to think of another situation, because I was singing his praises in the last race, saying what a champion's drive that was, and for me he was driver of the day, no doubt. I'm trying to think of a 2 races back to back where someone has gone so much from hero to zero, and it was just ridiculous, wasn't it? It was so rookie. It was It was just bad, and exactly what Ferrari didn't need. I could not believe it. It was just dumb. And also, I mean, Charles definitely beats himself up, doesn't he, with these things? And there was quotes from him saying, "Oh, I'm an asshole" and all this kind of stuff. So no one's harsher. He really does kind of beat himself up when things go wrong.
He's his worst own
enemy.
critic.
Yeah.
In terms of when he has a bad performance. But I think that's something that is still in his learning curve, and he will learn from this. For example, not in terms of, or maybe he saw it as his mistake when Verstappen, he kind of assumed Verstappen was going to give him space at turn 3 when he was fighting for the win against him.
Yeah.
And then the next race he came out and he learned from that, and he was much more aggressive, and he defended like his life depended on it at Silverstone. So it was it was interesting to see his reaction. It's something that I think we all expected from him, to be honest, after his, "I am stupid" quotes and all that sort of stuff from Baku. So I think he is very critical, but I think he is someone that learns from his mistakes very quickly indeed. So I wouldn't be surprised if we go to Hungary and he's much more measured. If he has another bad qualifying, he won't be going for that silly move, because there's one thing going for that move. There's another thing going for this move on your teammate.
Yeah.
When it's a risky situation. There's a question here from Bernie with a 1 in the middle. Why are Ferrari trying to make it a 50-50 situation when it was entirely Charles's fault, and he's even admitted that? Because Vettel's leaving Ferrari and Charles is their number 1. There's no other way around it.
I didn't get this question. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we had a few of these, and it confuses me. Because Charles admitted it's his fault. What are Ferrari going to gain by publicly shaming their driver that they've got in a contract for the next 5 years? It's not going to, we're always criticizing the way Ferrari are managed. That's not going to make things any better. Why would they do that? And also, I don't remember when they crashed in Interlagos, which I think the majority of people can admit was Seb's fault that time.
Yeah.
They didn't parade Vettel around the paddock shouting shame, did they?
No.
They didn't even ask him to apologize to Charles. They got them both out and apologized to each other and said, "We'll never do this again," like naughty school children. And again, put them out like 50-50 and said, "You will not do this again," when that was Vettel's fault. So of course, they're not going to publicly shame their own driver. And at the end of the day, they probably haven't done that. Another reason they've not done that is because Charles held his hands up himself and said, "I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. I apologize to the team. I've apologized to Seb." Like, they don't need to do anything else now. They just need to work on getting a better car now.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is
no benefit, as you say, for them to say, "Well, Charles' fault, blah, 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 blah." As you say, they'll just say it's a racing incident. It's the easiest way to just kind of shrug off the whole situation. They deal with it inside closed doors, and that's it. Ellie Louise _4 says, do Ferrari have any chances of redeeming themselves this year? I don't know. I don't think so. I think this is going to be one of the worst seasons they've had for a while, just purely for the fact that they pushed their upgrade package to this weekend just gone, and they're still rubbish. So,
yeah, I don't think the power unit, we won't go into this again. We know why the power unit is not very good.
That's where they've lost all their performance.
That's where they've lost all their performance. But the Red Bull Ring is a very power unit track. So personally, I think they will do a lot better in Hungary because they won't be so reliant on the power unit and they have upgrades. However, because of who Ferrari are, it's almost like because of how things went last year, you could almost argue the only way they can redeem themselves is by winning a race, and I can't see that happening this year.
It would have to be a crazy one. It'd have to be Germany all over again, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So I really can't. They're not going to redeem themselves overnight. They can bring upgrades. They're probably going to do, in my opinion, a lot better in Hungary. But I think for them, they've got to start. It's going to be a painful year, and now because of the rule extension next year as well. They're
there's
going to have
a lot of freezing going on into next year, isn't there?
Exactly.
So there's not much development they can do.
They're going to have to prepare for 2022 and just take this hit and hope that in 2022 they can deliver a title-winning car.
Which is sad. My goodness me, we wanted a fight. We thought we would get a fight, and Ferrari, straight out the blocks in testing, looked bad, and it's translated into the first couple of weekends. I'm hoping Hungary is better for them, but after watching Vettel struggle to drive that Ferrari in every shape of it wasn't like it was a planted car but just slow on a straight line. It looked very difficult to drive, and unless they can get on top of that, I guess it will vary track to track as to how the car behaves, because every track is a different beast. But if they're not good round Hungary, you can write off the season, I think, because Hungary is such a different track to Austria, as you say, much less power reliant. And then if we go to Spa, for example, Monza, there's not a chance. They're going to be nowhere. They are going to be absolutely nowhere. And after the euphoria of last year, it's going to be very, very difficult to swallow. So,
and I don't think we've spoken about this on the podcast yet, but we're going to Mugello after Monza, and that's going to be the Ferrari's 1,000th race.
It's even called the Ferrari 1000, isn't it? Or something?
Exactly, and that could be painful. It could be.
Yeah, they could be 1,000 seconds off the pace.
I saw a funny tweet that was along the lines of Mercedes have won at Red Bull and Honda tracks. It's nice for Ferrari to open theirs to another Mercedes win, so they can win on there as well.
Oh God, it's just sad. It's
just
sad. Perez won driver of the day, which was, I think, fair. I was very close to giving it to Lando, but yeah, I think Sergio Perez definitely overall, unbelievable drive from 17th. Had a little tiny nip on the back right of Albon, but apart from that, it was a flawless performance. He made unbelievable moves, and just again begs the question of how good is Lance Stroll, because Stroll wasn't near the pace of Perez, and the fact that he started 17th. I know Stroll wasn't much further up the grid, but still Perez definitely the number one in that team. And at Hugh 500023 says, why couldn't Perez pass Albon? Well, it's a Red Bull. And it's not the easiest thing. They were quite similar, I guess, on pace in some regards when Albon actually put in a good lap.
Both racing points had quite a tricky run. Obviously, we went into a little bit into this at the start, but even with DRS, I mean, you mentioned that maybe Albon got a little bit lucky where he had DRS with a few cars, and also I think George Russell, we joked that kind of he slot into the middle of both of them at one point, which hurt Perez a little bit, maybe made him drop back a bit. But I think the Racing Points just generally struggled. They weren't breezing past them in the DRS zone. So yeah, it was a strange one. But Perez was, for me, we'll go into this. I don't think he was driver of the weekend because his qualifying, let's be honest, was pretty poor, and unfortunately his mistake cost him what would have been fourth, and he nearly ended up eighth. So it was a massive mistake. But what a superb drive in terms of like his overtaking and stuff. Everyone loves to see that. And again, Stroll kind of got up to the front, and you thought, this is Stroll's chance here. And not only did Perez fly through the field, he also got behind Stroll, beat him in wheel to wheel, and then still finished ahead of him without a front wing. So it's not looking great for Stroll, is it?
No, because Stroll couldn't get past Ricciardo until obviously trying it on the last lap, where Perez just kind of flew past Ricciardo and then was 13 seconds down the road. So Stroll, I guess, should have probably gone for a move a bit earlier, but clearly just couldn't get close enough. I guess in terms of drive of the weekend, it was Lewis Hamilton, just in terms of the unbelievable performance from him. It was a typical Lewis Hamilton show, which so many people just shrug off, like in this day and age of social media where they just go, oh, it's Hamilton in the best car. Like, just look at what he did in qualifying. And then in the race, where he just managed the gap the entire time. When he needed fastest lap, he went for it. Obviously, Sainz then smashed that on fresh tyres. But it was a perfect performance from Lewis Hamilton. Perfect.
Yeah. It's almost the point where it's not even worth talking about, because if he can go 1.2 seconds quicker in horrendous
it wouldn't have been
conditions,
that, would it? Had Verstappen not spun, but then that's what you have to factor in, because Verstappen made the mistake,
and he was so far ahead of Bottas as well, his teammate in the same car, who's not a bad driver. How many how many more performances does Lewis Hamilton have to put in like that before people give him credit? And if they're not going to give him credit for that, then they never will. You see comments that one in absolutely crazy stat is that, well, two actually. So he's now, because he's won in 2020, he's become only the second driver in history to win across 3 decades, matching Jack Brabham. And then also that this is now his 14th consecutive season winning a race. The stats
speak for itself. The haters will still be the haters. I'm not going to go into it anymore, but Hamilton is quite easily the greatest of all time, or at least in that era of Schumi for me. I'll have to somehow absorb 7 titles this year, but we'll get round to that. Before we dive into ABCDEF1, I thought it would just be it sounds quite vain, but I guess some people might be wondering how my weekend went in the commentary box. So for people that didn't know, I was invited by Formula 1 to do the Formula 2 commentary, as well as F1 TV on the Pit Lane channel, alongside Alex Jakes for both of them. And, well, it was a baptism of fire, really. To have my commentary debut where I've not done any real-life racing commentary, not really been a colour commentator apart from my time in F1 esports, to then be thrust into a red flag for an hour for Formula 2 and then the entirety of FP3 cancelled.
Yeah, not good. You should have... I assume you spent lots of time preparing by watching the 2011 Canadian Grand Prix and just filling on your own, talking about birds and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I one of my skills is chatting absolute crap. So
that's why we're here.
I feel like I was ready for this. But at the same time, my goodness me, being live on Sky Sports for Formula 2 and then sitting there and seeing 10 more minutes. So much so we were kind of going pretty insane by the end and commentating the medical car going around the track. But yeah, I think people seem to enjoy it. So I hope you did at home. And there was loads of support and lovely messages that you guys tweeted me and left in comments on YouTube and things like that. So thank you so much for that. It genuinely means the world.
You did a wonderful job.
Oh, stop it, Tommy. You're going to make me blush.
It was... go on, carry on.
That's fine. You carry on.
I was just going to say it. It was... I felt like a proud parent all weekend, because he had you doing F2 commentary. We had Jack Aitken making his F1 weekend debut. We got to 500,000 subscribers. So pretty good week for us, really.
Pretty good week, absolutely. And I was just going to add, that it was a childhood dream come true. You know, back when I used to do Xmatty G, I had in my banner for my YouTube channel, I had Home of Bantalicious content, which will never escape me to the day I die. But then next to it was aspiring Formula 1 commentator. And I just kind of commentated over random videos, but I don't think I really ever thought that this would be a thing. And then I even put on Instagram my picture of me with the mic, and Martin Brundle replies saying job threat under... What was it?
Job security, under threat or something.
Yeah, job under threat or job security under threat. I was like... I kind of just almost, nearly exploded. So, but yeah, just to kind of highlight, it was pretty cool. It was quite insightful to kind of see, because it was exactly the same setup as what Formula 1 use and what Crofty and Brundle use in terms of the data that they see. So it was really quite eye-opening for me to not only see that, but also get shown around the Formula 1 production sort of centre where they have... So it's really cool, actually. I won't go into too much detail because it's quite difficult to explain, but there's so many people working on the F1 production in terms of the feed that you see and things like that. You've got 4 people that are colour correcting certain cameras to make sure that they're good enough to go live. You've got all of these people in production clipping up replays and then trying to sell that to the assistant producer, who'll then try and sell that to the producer. So I actually was lucky enough to sit there with headphones on. I think it was during an F3 race, and I could hear all the replay people saying, oh, I've got a clip of blah, blah, blah saying, oh my God, it's the wettest thing I've ever seen. I can't see anything, blah, 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 effing and blinding. And then you'd hear the assistant producer going, okay, all right, send that over, or nah, that's a bit rubbish. No, find me another one. So it was really cool to hear all this feed of replays and team radios and things like that, to then kind of, it was like an auction. It was so weird to listen to, but so eye opening.
It's crazy how much goes into it, and you almost take it for granted, really, don't you? I guess you can now see just how much work goes into those things. I mean, F1 this weekend have even now introduced where they're actually like transcribing the team radios, so you can see, like, properly understand them
when it's on the screen.
Stuff.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I mean, so much effort goes into it, and team radio makes the race a lot of the time, doesn't it? So
yeah, and it's so much timing. You hear like 5, 4, team radio, and 3, 2, and then it comes up, and then they play the audio. It was just so intriguing to listen to and to watch, and it definitely gave me a greater understanding of how much is going on at once. I was going to say something else, but I can't remember. We'll carry on anyway, and if it comes back to me during ABCDF1, then I will continue with that point. But anyway, Tommy, have you got the jingle?
Of course. I'm putting it in post.
Okay.
The funniest thing, actually, while we're here, because this is really funny, that obviously the kind of running joke is that I always forget the jingle, but in the last podcast, obviously, we can put it in post because I'm recording on my phone, so I can't play it now because of lockdown. And I actually rendered the whole podcast video and then realized I'd forgot the ABCDEF1 jingle, and we had to render it again.
You had one
so
job,
it was out 5 hours late, so good times.
Right, it's time for ABCDEF1.
Now it's time for ABCDEF1.
We will start with Lewis Hamilton. A-star, done. Move
Easy.
on. The easiest A-star I think we've ever had to give.
Yeah.
Flawless performance. I think the only time I saw any sort of mistake was a replay of him locking up into turn 3 once. Whoop-de-doo. But yeah, perfect performance from Hamilton. Bottas, B.
He's a B. I kind of want to give him a C for breaking lockdown as well, which was really dumb. I don't know if you saw that story.
No, what was that?
Bottas, for some reason, even though his girlfriend was there, and Leclerc did it as well, and they got quite a bit of backlash for it.
They got warnings, didn't they?
Yeah, they went home to Monaco, despite kind of, I mean, without getting too over the top about it.
Political,
we everyone has to make sacrifices, and you're in a beautiful part of the world, probably in the most ridiculous hotel, and you can't even stay at the Red Bull Ring for 2 days. So yeah, that was quite infuriating, to be honest. So
yeah, we won't go into our opinions on that because, it's not really much point. But but yeah, I don't. Let's not rate him on his lockdown breaking.
Okay, he gets a B then.
Okay, cool. Leclerc would probably get the worst rating ever then if we put lockdown involved, but it has to be an F anyway.
It's a massive F regardless, yeah.
Yeah, big F.
Unfortunately for Leclerc. Can't get any worse, really.
Yeah, bad qualifying, gets a penalty and then smashes into his teammate. Vettel, well, very difficult to judge, but he hadn't crashed into anyone by turn 3. His qualifying was mediocre, but I think it just kind of highlighted how terrible that Ferrari was when both the Ferraris were struggling to get out of Q2.
C. I think C is fair. Yeah. Again, really hard to rate, but because you never know what he'd have done, but it wasn't like he was setting the world alight before his crash in like qualifying or whatever. So
yeah,
C. Yeah.
I think Verstappen can get an A.
Yeah.
And he messed up in qualifying, but his performance in the race was amazing. Had he probably put it within 7/10 of pole, I probably would even say an A-star potentially, because I don't think he could have done anything else in that race, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Verstappen, again, back to the whole point of Verstappen's going to end up third every race. It almost seems like, and it was very similar last year, actually, that we just kind of give him an A, and then if he messes up, he gets a worse grade, and then A-star if he can somehow beat a Mercedes. So yeah, A,
I think it's a fair measurement. Albon, I'm going to give a D.
Ooh. Yeah.
What were you going to give him?
I was going to say C or D, but I feel like maybe D's a little harsh. It's really hard to tell. I mean, I think if he'd have got a worse result and been done by Perez, even though you'd argue that it was more Perez messing up than
You want to give him a C when he was 40 seconds off Verstappen?
Yeah, can we? D.
Thank you very much. Okay, D for Albon. Carlos Sainz, quite difficult. I mean, he had a great qualifying, P3.
Mistakes,
team
not
messed
his
up
fault.
slightly. Yeah, I think still deserves an A.
Yeah, A,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay, Lando Norris, I think we're going to give an A as well.
Yeah, not an A, not quite an A star because of the qualifying performance
Qualifying
wasn't up
was,
to there,
yeah.
but yeah, can't give him anything other than A, pair of A's for McLaren.
Wow, we're agreeing with pretty much everything. And if we don't agree, then you go with my one. Daniel Ricciardo, it's
B. Almost an B.
It's touching on A, I think.
Yeah, I put in my notes B, almost A, but I don't know. It's almost like it was a good drive, but then if you give him an A, it's not really on the same level as a Norris or a Sainz.
No. And he came out worse in that final lap battle, so I think B is fair. Ocon, he had a very good qualifying, P5. Then obviously he had reliability issues, so his pace in the race was maybe slightly slower than what Sainz was in front of him until he then retired after his pit stop. B,
I think a B. If we're gonna have to, we can't do minuses or plus. I think if we did that, he'd probably be a B minus and Ricciardo B plus. But I think they are both Bs.
Well, his qualifying was so good though. That's why I wouldn't probably give him a minus, to be honest.
Okay, that's fair. You almost forgot about that.
Yeah, because when Ricciardo went on the softs afterwards, his pace wasn't particularly good either. So maybe the Renault just wasn't great on those soft tyres. Because when Ricciardo pit, I thought, well, he's going to have Albon here because he's on fresh softs, but his pace wasn't really that great because I think he probably had to eke it out a little bit as well.
Yeah, he was really hanging on, wasn't he, ahead of Stroll? So, yeah, okay.
All right, B. Gasly. Well, he had an amazing qualifying again, but then had the worst pace ever, did a 2-stop. Going from softs to hards, then back to softs.
He got hit by Ricciardo at turn 1. And
he did,
apparently, according to his team and stuff and the team radios and everything, he said that the car never felt good after that knock. So,
well, that might just be covering over some blushes.
Yeah, I think it's a C though.
Yeah,
I don't think
it's a C.
bad enough for a D.
It can't be any more than that after finishing so low down.
Yeah.
Kvyat, he finished 10th, didn't he? He was really happy actually in post race, chatting in an interview. So, his qualifying wasn't great.
No, I don't think it was a spectacular performance.
But he scored points again, so it's kind of that's a B minus, I think, for me.
Yeah.
But we can't go for that. So,
if we're giving really borderline, was his race as good as a Ricciardo? I don't think it was personally. I know it sounds really harsh, but if you look at the people he finished ahead, the cars he finished ahead as well were Alpha, the Hasses, which are nowhere. So
yeah, but I guess my argument is you have to compare to your teammate. If you're not really, or their teammate, sorry, if you're not particularly sure, and I know that there's this whole, my car wasn't the same, but I think in my mind, in the replay, there wasn't really much contact. There was just a little bit of a boop. But
a boop.
Obviously, I'm not an
Technical.
F1 engineer, so I think because he scored points again, recovered really well in the race. I think a B. Okay. And his teammate was slow as dogs. So
yeah, okay.
Let's give him a B. Perez, A. A.
I was going to say B. But now,
B?
Wait.
What the hell is wrong with you?
He qualified 17th, which is
Did you
horrendous.
see his race?
Yeah, but then...
I'm sorry, it's a treacherous qualifying. You get caught out, fine. He made up for it.
I'm a big Perez fan, but you have to look at the facts here. And the fact is,
he got driver of the day. There will be people outside your house with a stake ready to...
He got driver of the day before he crashed into Albon. And that was
it would have been an A star without crashing into Albon.
Oh, I agree.
So you're telling me it's gone from an A star to a B just from that
in
minor
the race,
touch?
He was driver of the day, but you can't ignore the fact that with that actual pace of the racing point, he should have been 4th and he finished 6th and almost 8th. I think it's just pushing into an A for me, but I'd be reluctant to give it. But seeing as though you're making me sound like I'm absolutely mad for thinking that someone qualifies 17th deserves an A.
We're giving it an A.
Okay.
We're giving it an A. Come on. Stroll.
C.
C? Yeah, I mean, he did struggle behind Ricciardo a lot. Should have definitely made the move through, considering the pace of the racing point.
Yeah.
Okay, I
It's
can give it a C.
borderline D, isn't it? It's difficult. I don't know.
Yeah, let's give him a C.
Yeah.
Let's not be too harsh. Come on.
Yeah.
I know it's early in the week. Okay, Raikkonen. Oh my God! I mean, where the hell are Alfa Romeo? They are nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's just a Ferrari curse.
Weirdly though, and this is almost forgotten until I really looked into this, Raikkonen had a blinder.
Oh no, yeah. On the pit lane channel, if you watched, we saw loads of Raikkonen dive bombs.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
they didn't show
Did you
any
see
of them.
on
Did you see the one?
They didn't show any.
No. Did you see the one? I might be confused. Obviously, I'm frantically tweeting and posting memes and all that kind of stuff, so I might have missed them. But I don't remember seeing that much during the race. He made a mega move around the outside of Latifi, I think it was.
He did. He did indeed. Saw it live on the pit lane channel.
Incredible. Yeah. I mean, it's been nearly an A for me. He finished 11th in that Alpha, which is absolutely dog beat.
Let's give him an A. Raikkonen, genuinely, with so many good moves from Raikkonen.
He dropped to last as well, didn't he? Behind when he got kind of caught up in the Ferrari crash, ironically.
Yeah.
And dropped to last and finished 11th. So he's unlucky not to get a point. So yeah.
Cool.
Let's go.
Let's give him an A. Giovinazzi.
Oh dear, he did not have a good. To say that he put in a great performance where I almost noticed him because he seems like a forgotten driver, especially when like the whole Netflix joke and stuff. He's just not doing enough, is he? And he spun off again. Spun off in qualifying.
He didn't have a great performance,
Didn't
but
have much
I think
pace.
In general he's been improving and been very much more on Kimi Raikkonen's pace than usual, especially in qualifying. But this weekend not so great maybe. So a D?
A D, yeah. You just want to see something. I know it's hard to perform in an Alpha, but the best drivers do. Like look at Leclerc when he was in the Sauber, which arguably was better than it is now. But you can show people what you can do in a good car.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. Magnussen.
I think we just need to put Magnussen and Grosjean together and just a pair of C's.
D's.
No,
C's?
I think they're just solid, but nothing special. They can't really do much. They didn't crash. Their brakes
they're
didn't
becoming
fail.
the Williams of last year.
Yeah, yeah.
All right,
I think so.
Let's give him a pair of C's. Russell. It's so difficult because
I think you got to give
great
him
qualifying, but made a mistake.
I think you've got to give him a C because that mistake is huge for Williams.
Cost him
It's a huge mistake to make, and almost kind of. Well, I know he is a rookie, but you don't.
He's not a rookie.
Well, not a rookie, but like very, very new to Formula One.
Yeah,
and you think that with his talent, he'd know better than to. I guess he's. I guess he was proper pumped, wasn't he? And he probably thought, "Oh my god, I'm in a Williams and I'm actually racing other cars here," and just went for it, and it cost him big time. Unfortunately, massive shame.
Yeah, it was a shame.
Gutted.
Massive shame because his qualifying was so good, but that race mistake just undid it all.
C,
C for Russell. Latifi, I've been pleasantly surprised, and some people were commenting saying, "Oh, Matt, he's finished dead last in both races," but his pace hasn't been that bad compared to Russell, considering it's his rookie season. He's still learning. You look at Lando from last year; he was still very timid at the start of the races. So, I think some people that are being a bit harsh about Latifi's performances, I don't think he's done all too bad so far.
No, he's not been horrendous, has he? So I think next race should be interesting because I think Williams will be a lot better suited to Hungary. So I think a C is fair.
C as well. Yeah, C. Nice. Styrian Grand Prix predictions. Okay, so Hamilton dominates. Ding, ding, ding. Thank you very much. 1 point on the board. Beautiful.
Yeah.
What were you going to say there, Tommy?
No, you smashed it.
Smash that one. And Verstappen DNF again. No. So that's 1 point for me. Tommy, your two.
Perez podium. Didn't happen.
No.
Unfortunately.
And Bottas wins again? No. So you had a clean sweep last weekend. No points this weekend. Matt is coming back. And the two fans' predictions. Marcus Soholm, there will be only one retirement. No, there was three. And the Josh of Wades. Albon absolutely sends it into Hamilton on the opening lap. No, it'd have to actually be close to him on the grid.
Savage. It would have only been one retirement if Charles hadn't made the lunge. So no thanks to Ferrari there.
Hungarian Grand Prix predictions. I have predicted that Perez will be on the podium. Just taking your one from last week. And Albon off the pace. I think in terms of quantifiable,
Yeah, I
I
was going
think
to say we need
more
some
than
more.
half a second off the pace of Verstappen per lap. So we'll just we'll have a look and see what that is. Because I think until he picked up the pace to try and stop Perez, he was over a second a lap slower than Verstappen for the majority of that race. So I think those two. So Tommy, your two?
I've gone big here. Right.
You've gone for a really specific one.
Russell
You get 2 points if this is real.
Okay, Russell knocks out a Renault in Q1.
You've gone for a me in Austria. Yeah, nice. I like it.
I can see Williams doing quite well in Hungary, hopefully. And this is bold, but Vettel podium. I mean,
okay.
Let's hope those upgrades work because it would be nice to see him not so bad, wouldn't it?
Let's see. I don't think that either of those are going to come true, but let's see. Fans, Formula Avery, another wet qualifying, please.
Yeah.
And Josh T2110, no Mercedes on the podium. Also, please.
Yeah.
I think that's more hopeful than reliable predictions. But either way, let's hope we get some points this week.
I think we'll need kind of some sawtooth spikes on the curbs for no Mercedes on the podium, but
just proper Verstappers on the old exits. That'd be nice. Cool. That is it. We're done. We are finished here for the WTF1 podcast. We'll of course be back next week for the Hungarian Grand Prix podcast. Then we have is it a week break, and then we have 3 more.
Yeah. So last of the triple header, and then it's a week break, and then a triple header again, then a week break, and a triple header again.
Oh my God, so much Formula One. I love it. It's so good. Hope you're all staying safe at home and you enjoyed Formula One over these last couple of weeks. Enjoy the Hungarian Grand Prix as well. Tommy, final thoughts from you?
Bring it on. Let's hope it's a banger of a race because Hungary is a mixed bag, isn't it?
Lovely stuff. Thank you again for watching / listening. Make sure to give us a 5-star or a thumbs up or a nice comment. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, please do that. It makes our day. That's it. Thank you so much, Tommy, for your time. I'm waving at you now.
Goodbye.
Bye, Tommy.
Bye. Miss you. Hopefully see you soon.
Miss you. See you soon, maybe.
Bye.
And bye-bye to you guys at home. See ya.